Have you ever noticed how the world bends itself around what is scarce? How the very fabric of reality seems to reweave itself when you, the constant, the ever-present, suddenly aren't? This isn't merely about playing games or feigning disinterest. This is about a profound, almost alchemical transformation that occurs within yourself and in your external reality when you cease to be perpetually available. It's about a shift in the very gravitational pull of your being. Welcome, seekers of depth, to a journey into the intricate dance of availability in its antithesis. Today we're tackling a painful truth head-on, the number one reason you're being taken for granted and how to fix it instantly. We peel back the layers of a seemingly simple concept. When you stop being available, everything changes, to reveal the complex interplay of power, desire, self-worth, and the unconscious forces that shape our human connections. This isn't a superficial guide to manipulating others, but an exploration of the profound psychological and philosophical shifts that occur when we reclaim our sovereign space, when we dare to step back from the constant clamor for our attention, time, and energy. We will delve into the subterranean currents of the psyche, exploring how our ingrained patterns of availability often stem from deeper wellsprings. The Adlerian striving for significance, the Freudian yearning for attachment and fear of abandonment, the Jungian shadow aspects of people-pleasing, and the collective unconscious's subtle pressures towards conformity. We will examine how this withdrawal, far from being an act of ego, can become a crucible for individuation, a Nietzschean assertion of will, and a profound exercise in self-authorship. Consider for a moment the profound existential anxiety that often underpins our perpetual availability. Is it a fear of loneliness, a Schopenhauerian escape from the inherent suffering of isolation? Or is it a Machiavellian, albeit unconscious, attempt to maintain influence, to be indispensable in the intricate power dynamics of our relationships? We are not simply discussing a behavioral modification, we are dissecting a fundamental shift in one's very being, a reevaluation of personal boundaries, and a challenging of the often unspoken contracts we hold with the world. At the heart of human connection lies an archetypal longing for presence. From the infant's cry for its mother to the adult's search for companionship, the desire for another's availability is deeply etched into our collective unconscious. We seek recognition, validation, and a mirroring of our own existence. Jung would speak of the anima-animus projection, drawing us towards those who embody qualities we unconsciously seek or lack within ourselves. When we are consistently available, we feed into this archetypal expectation, becoming, in a sense, a constant source of that desired presence for others. However, the shadow side of this perpetual availability is often self-abnegation. It's the Freudian repression of our own needs, desires, and even our legitimate anger in service of maintaining an external harmony. We become the perennial giver, the unwavering anchor, the reliable constant. While seemingly virtuous, this role often masks an insidious form of self-sacrifice, where our own individuation journey is stalled, our unique voice muted by the chorus of others' demands. Erich Fromm warned of the dangers of escaping freedom, of surrendering our autonomy in exchange for the perceived security of belonging. When we are always available, we subtly, unconsciously, relinquish a piece of our freedom. This constant availability can also be a manifestation of an Adlerian inferiority complex. The overzealous desire to be helpful, to be needed, to be indispensable, can be a compensatory mechanism for underlying feelings of inadequacy. By making ourselves perpetually useful, we strive for a sense of significance, hoping to earn our place in the social hierarchy, to prove our worth. The underlying question is often, if I am not constantly giving, constantly present, will I still be valued? Will I still belong? Now let us turn to a more challenging, perhaps uncomfortable truth, one that Machiavelli would have recognized with cynical precision. Power shifts in the vacuum of absence. When you are perpetually available, your value in a strange twist of human psychology can subtly diminish. The human mind, wired for the pursuit of scarce resources, tends to assign a higher value to what is less accessible. This isn't a conscious calculation on the part of others. It's a deep, often unconscious, psychological dynamic. Think of it in terms of supply and demand. If the supply of your time, attention, and energy is seemingly infinite, its perceived demand, and therefore its inherent value, can decrease. When you become less available, you introduce an element of scarcity. This scarcity, far from being manipulative, can reveal the true underlying value of your presence. It forces others to confront what your absence means to them, to recognize the void that was once filled effortlessly by your constant availability. This shift in power dynamics is not about control over others, but about reclaiming control over oneself. It is a Nietzschean assertion of the will to power, not as dominance over others, but as mastery over one's own being. It's a recognition that your time, your energy, and your presence are finite, valuable resources that deserve to be deployed with intentionality, not given away indiscriminately. This isn't about becoming manipulative, but about becoming discerning, about setting boundaries that affirm your own inherent worth. The decision to become less available often forces an individual into an existential crucible. Viktor Frankl, the architect of logotherapy, emphasized the human search for meaning in the face of suffering. When we are constantly available, constantly responding to external stimuli and demands, we often bypass the deeper questions of meaning and purpose in our own lives. The external clamor drowns out the inner voice. When you withdraw, even subtly, from the ceaseless demands of others, you create a void. This void, while initially uncomfortable, is a fertile ground for self-reflection. It's in this space of self-imposed solitude that you are confronted with your own internal landscape, your true desires, your authentic self. This is where the work of individuation truly begins, as Jung described it. The process of becoming the unique and whole individual you are meant to be, rather than merely a reflection of external expectations. The suffering inherent in this withdrawal can be profound. The initial discomfort of saying no, the fear of disappointing others, the potential for perceived rejection. These are the growing pains of authenticity. Schopenhauer might observe that this suffering is an inevitable aspect of the human condition, but it is through this suffering that we find deeper insights and a more robust sense of self. This isn't passive suffering. It's an active engagement with the discomfort of growth, a conscious choice to prioritize inner alignment over external validation. One of the most striking changes that occurs when you stop being available is the unconscious recalibration of your relationships. People are forced to reevaluate their perception of you and their expectations of your role in their lives. The dynamic shifts from one of assumed access to one of earned presence. For some, this shift will be met with resistance, perhaps even resentment. These are often the relationships where the imbalance of giving and receiving has been most pronounced, where your perpetual availability was taken for granted, or worse, subtly exploited. Freud would recognize the unconscious pushback against the disruption of established patterns, the discomfort of having to confront one's own needs and resources when the accustomed source is no longer effortlessly at hand. This resistance, while painful, is often a necessary catalyst for revealing the true nature of these connections. For others, however, this newfound unavailability will be met with respect, even renewed appreciation. It's in these relationships that true reciprocity can begin to flourish. When you are no longer taken for granted, your presence becomes more valuable, your insights more keenly sought, and your contributions more deeply acknowledged. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about valuing yourself enough to command respect, and in doing so, inviting others to meet you on a more equal footing. This is where Fromm's concept of mature love, rooted in freedom and respect, rather than dependency, can begin to manifest. Beyond the external shifts, the most profound changes occur within. Stopping your perpetual availability triggers an internal renaissance, accelerating the individuation journey. When the external demands lessen, the inner voice becomes louder. You gain time and mental space to confront your own shadow aspects. The need for approval, the fear of judgment, the unconscious desire to control situations by being constantly on. This internal work is crucial. It's where you begin to challenge the internalized narratives that have perhaps driven your overavailability. The belief that your worth is tied to your usefulness, or that your existence is validated only by the constant presence of others. Nietzsche's concept of self-overcoming resonates powerfully here. It's about overcoming these ingrained psychological patterns, moving beyond reactive living to proactive self-creation. You begin to recognize your own will to power, not as dominance over others, but as the inherent drive to grow, to create, to actualize your potential. This internal shift radiates outward, changing your energy, your posture, your very aura. People unconsciously sense this newfound self-possession, this groundedness, and respond to it differently. It's a subtle yet powerful, magnetic force that draws different experiences and different types of connections into your life. Consider the recurring mythic motif of the hero's withdrawal. From Odysseus's long journey home to the Buddha's solitary meditation under the Bodhi tree, the hero often retreats from the world before returning, transformed, empowered, and with newfound wisdom. This withdrawal is not an abandonment of the world, but a necessary step for internal consolidation, for facing inner demons, and for connecting with a deeper source of wisdom. When you consciously choose to become less available, you are, in a symbolic sense, embarking on your own hero's withdrawal. You are stepping away from the superficial demands of the known world to confront the unknown depths of your own psyche. This often involves a period of discomfort, a sense of loss, a grappling with the fear of being forgotten or left behind. But it is precisely in this liminal space, this symbolic wilderness, that true transformation occurs. The return, the re-engagement with the world from this new vantage point is marked by a subtle but profound shift. You are no longer merely reactive, you are responsive. You are no longer merely present, you are meaningfully present. Your contributions carry more weight, your boundaries are clearer, and your interactions are imbued with a greater sense of intentionality and authenticity. So how does one practically embark on this journey of calibrated unavailability? It begins with the courageous act of setting boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are membranes that define where you end and another begins. They are an affirmation of your individual sovereignty, a necessary expression of self-respect. This means consciously scheduling time for yourself, time for reflection, for creative pursuits, for simply being. It means learning to say no without guilt, understanding that a no to one thing is often a yes to something more important, your well-being, your purpose, your authentic self. It means valuing your time and energy as finite, precious resources and allocating them with deliberate intention. This isn't about becoming selfish in the pejorative sense. As Erich Fromm eloquently argued, self-love is not selfishness. It is the prerequisite for genuinely loving others. When you are depleted, when your wellspring of energy is dry, you have little authentic presence to offer anyone. By tending to your own needs, by guarding your availability, you paradoxically become more capable of truly connecting, truly giving, and truly loving. This act of boundary setting is an exercise in the Nietzschean will to power over oneself. It's about self-mastery, about defining your own terms of engagement with the world, rather than allowing the world to define them for you. It's an affirmation of your intrinsic value, independent of your utility to others. In summary, the seemingly simple act of ceasing perpetual availability unleashes a cascade of profound transformations. It is an alchemical process, turning the lead of self-abnegation into the gold of authenticity and self-possession. Psychologically, it unearths unconscious motivations, challenging Adlerian strivings for significance and Freudian fears of abandonment, propelling us towards Jungian individuation. Philosophically, it reconfigures Machiavellian power dynamics in our relationships, forcing a Nietzschean assertion of our will to power over ourselves and inviting a Franklian search for deeper meaning in the space of newly created autonomy. Symbolically, it mirrors the hero's transformative withdrawal, a necessary descent into the self before a more powerful reemergence. When you stop being universally available, you don't lose value, you clarify it. You don't push people away. You allow those who truly value you to step forward on a more equal footing. You don't become isolated, you create space for more authentic, meaningful connections to flourish. You move from being a constant, predictable presence to a discerning, intentional force. Your absence, ironically, makes your presence far more potent, more appreciated, and ultimately more genuinely impactful. This isn't a game, it's a refoundational act of self-respect and self-authorship. So I invite you for a single day, or even just for a few hours, to experiment with the alchemy of unavailability. Consciously create a pocket of time where you are unreachable, where your energy is solely for yourself. Observe the initial discomfort, the unconscious resistance. Then pay close attention to what emerges within you. What insights surface? What needs become clear? And then observe the subtle, yet profound shifts in how the world responds. Share your reflections in the comments below. How has calibrated unavailability reshaped your world? What deeper truths did you uncover? Let us engage in this ongoing exploration of the intricate dance between presence and absence, between self and other, between the ceaseless demands of the world and the sacred space of the self. Your journey towards authentic presence begins the moment you dare to reclaim your absence. If this video resonated with you, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the human psyche and philosophical wisdom. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration. Let's continue to uncover these powerful truths together.